Welcome to The Next Level, conversations that propel business. The next hour is all about the entrepreneur, why they start businesses, how they make their businesses grow, how they overcome failures and achieve success. Your hosts are Bob Gibbons, founder of Riata Commercial Realty, a commercial real estate advisory and tenant advocacy firm, and Stephen Nooner, founder and CEO of Alkali, a company with a unique process that helps businesses more effectively buy and manage their insurance programs. Bob and Stephen will ask probing questions to find impactful solutions that will help take your business to the next level. And now, here's Bob Gibbons and Stephen Nooner.
Welcome to The Next Level, conversations that propel business. This is Bob Gibbons.
And this is Stephen Nooner, and I'm excited to introduce Nik and Garrett Adair.
Yep.
They are the co-founders of vitafive, a 3-year-old company that is experiencing hockey stick growth. It's super cool to see. They create custom gummy vitamin packs and have the packs ship on a 4-week subscription basis. So we're going to learn a lot more about that. I was telling my wife on my way in about today's interview, and I think she's already ready to sign up. So I might need to learn a little more about what you guys are doing. So if you want to learn more yourself, please visit vitafive.com. That's VITA 5.com. Welcome, guys.
Welcome. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
We're glad you're here today. We're really looking forward to the conversation, but we always start with wisdom of others, and that's a quote from somebody smarter than Stephen. That pretty much opens up the whole world, doesn't it? Well, we appreciate you guys bringing in the quote this week, and it's from a guy named Greg Goschel.
Greg Groeschel.
Groeschel, okay. And he said, if the grass is greener on the other side, water your lawn. I love that quote.
Yeah.
Why is that important to you guys?
I'll let Nik talk about that.
You know, it was just kind of like a recent quote that I had, I think every couple of weeks I go through different quotes that I like, but I like that one because I feel like everyone says, oh, this business is better, or, this product is better. They're selling more because of this, or whatever it may be. And a lot of the times I think it's just you need to water your own lawn. You go out there and you need to figure it out yourself, or kind of do the things necessary to do. So,
well, I kind of picked up on that. It's don't give up so easily.
Right.
Look at what you have and how you can improve that and what you need to do about that. Don't just assume that it's better somewhere else just because you don't happen to be there.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Cool. I like that.
Any thoughts on it? I mean,
I think over the last couple of years we looked at things on the first part of the quote where it's like, oh, the grass is greener. And it's like, well, this and that. And then as you start to water your lawn and you start to see your grass get greener, you go, oh, the issue was us, not them, And and at the same time, I would say that when it's better to have green grass that you have rather than have someone else's green grass. So once we started to experience that growth and lusciousness of our own lawn, we had so much more pride in it because it was ours. It was like, we did this. We watered the lawn, and we didn't envy anyone else.
Well, and that's a first doing. Right there. Stephen, we have not had anybody ever use the word lusciousness
right?
on our show before.
If it's a word, yeah.
Well, what I loved about it, too, is that first of all, I love Craig Groeschel. One of my favorite books is a book called Weird. So if you're listening,
I was actually about to buy that. Yeah,
that's an awesome book.
Oh,
great speaker, author, everything else. But I really, really love this quote because it applies to so many parts of our life. I think not just, we're talking business, but I look at my marriage, right? I mean, this same quote is totally applicable. Hey, man, this looks great, that looks great. Oh, let's watch The Bachelor. Oh, doesn't that look wonderful? But hey, blocking and tackling, date nights, watering the lawn. Am I still open the door for her? Do I still greet her when she comes home?
Right.
Am I doing the things that are going to keep that
love
grass
alive?
Luscious.
Yeah.
I've got 2 words
nice
for
and
you.
luscious.
Very white.
So, anywhere, right? It's just, I thought it was a brilliant quote, and I added it to my collection. So thank you.
There we go.
So I thought it was interesting. You guys, we asked you in your pre-interview information about something about each of you that was maybe not everybody knows. And I was interested that you, Nik, were on the U.S. luge team.
Yeah. So whenever I was 10, they had these tryouts in South Lake where I lived, and my mom's like, hey, let's do this for my birthday. It'd be fun.
Wait a minute, you're trying out in South Lake, Texas?
Yeah, they put wheels on it. And so I just did it for fun, and then it was went to Lake Placid, New York to train with them. and it was like kind of like a development team for the Junior Olympics. And then, if you continue to go and go, then you get up to that level. But yeah, I did that for like 2.5, 3 years. So.
See, I didn't even know that, so that was like really deep.
So luge is feet first and skeletons head
Skeletons
first?
head first, yep.
Okay, well, at least you were smart enough to go feet first.
I know, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And you, Garrett, not quite so much. Yours was 2 speeding tickets in an hour.
Yeah. Well, it was kind of my fault, but not really.
Wait a minute. You were either speeding or you weren't.
I know, but in Louisiana, they got the worst speed traps.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And so the first one was my fault. It was just, I was going like 15 over. But the second one, it literally went from like 60 to 30 in, maybe 500 feet. And like when you're going 60, you go 500 feet pretty quick. I look down at my radio, look back up again, and then lights turn on behind me. And so that was like an hour. Yeah, that was like an hour and a half later. So I'm like, the first one I was like, oh man, that was my fault. The second one I was just like livid. And then the guy I worked for, funny enough, was a lobbyist for the sheriff's department in Louisiana. So I got there and I said, hey, by the way, I got 2 tickets on the way down here. And he's like, we'll take care of it.
Wow.
So
nice.
Worked out perfectly.
So you didn't have to. How old were you at this time?
19.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say, because I had a couple years like that in my early, when I first started driving, and I remember those conversations when I went home. So you were beyond that.
Moral of the story is speed down the luge track, not in Louisiana.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Have the right friends.
Yeah.
It goes far.
Just don't drive there. They have horrible roads, speed traps everywhere. It's just a bad experience.
So I'd just love, just before we even get into your business, to just kind of step back and talk about, both y'all's entrepreneurial journeys. And then I think it's really cool how you guys connected at school. And so just if you guys would share kind of those stories.
Yeah, well, mine's a little, I think Nik, he's the hustler. So like he's been doing entrepreneurial stuff since he was in high school. For me, I didn't really do much stuff until college was really when I wanted to start looking into things. So we probably had, I don't know, between the two of us, maybe 15 ideas that we wanted to do. And, you get to the maybe development stage and you go, I don't have enough money for this, or I can't do this, or it's not easy enough to, because we're not geniuses. So we couldn't develop an app or we couldn't do anything like that.
Like Bob?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We got a couple
Baby.
things in common.
What's the secret hand code for anyway?
Yeah. So for me, it was freshman year. We actually met in literally our first class, and it was just like business calculus. And the joke is, like, I did calculus in school, so I got like an A in the class, but it was like one of the only A's I got in school. And so like all of my buddies that met me in that class were like, oh, Garrett's a genius. He's going to kill it. And then it's like, then they found out and they're like, oh, wait, no, that was just a fluke. So we always make that joke because they thought I was so smart in the beginning. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't have too much experience in the beginning. And that's, I think, a point to make is if you want to start a business, you don't have to be a genius. You just have to be resilient. You just got to keep going. And then learning from your mistakes. That's the biggest thing. Just don't make it twice.
So you guys, you had some prior business experience. What was yours? It sounds like.
Kind of, whenever I was young, I always worked and found pretty quick that, I could make more money faster. So like back in high school, I would work a job 40 hours a week during summer, but then I would sell stuff on Craigslist. And I'd make what I sold on Craigslist in 2 hours,
right?
What I make for the whole week. And I'm like, this doesn't make sense. Why am I trading my hours for this? Doesn't, yeah. So that kind of like put me in this mindset of, well, I don't want to, trade time for dollars. And so just gradually always going off ideas. Back in high school, had a couple, ideas that you don't share to anyone kind of thing.
Sure.
But it,
your secret notepad.
Yeah, exactly. That it doesn't matter because it's execution. but yeah, and then in college, it was just kind of, I did one business that failed completely, like right away, failed bad. It was just horrible.
What was the business?
We did like grocery delivery.
Okay.
To the college students. And it was just like, we thought, similar with vitafive, we thought, oh, you just put your site up and then, say something online, you just get sales. I think, all seriousness, we had like 3 sales.
Yeah.
The entire
wow.
time. Like $150 in
and maybe
revenue.
one was Reed's girlfriend and one was Yoon.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Yoon was one. Yeah,
one of my buddies. So it was like,
I think there was like 2 people that we didn't know.
Wow.
But I love what you said about never trade time for money. When my kids were growing up, they both had little businesses in the neighborhood, mowing lawns, taking care of other dogs, whatever. And my kids would always say, what do we charge for this? per hour. I want to make $15 an hour, so I should charge $5 for this, right? I'm like, no. Never, ever charge by the hour. Charge based on what people are willing to pay to not have to do it themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love that you figured that out young, because, I mean, entrepreneurs should never trade time for money.
Yeah, no, exactly. It just is, for me, it was an easier way. And then, of course, after that, I kind of wanted to I did a window cleaning business. And Garrett actually did one of those as well. That he didn't
Yeah,
touch on,
I just
but-
copied and paste, and I basically plagiarized. It was actually for him. It was he did it for real during the summer, and he made more money cleaning windows than I made at my professional internship, actually in the building across the way.
Wow.
And I was like, holy cow! And during that next semester, I was in a venture class, and they said you have to start something. You just have to make money with a business. And I'm like, perfect. So I just did exactly what he did and made like a couple grand. And everyone else in the class, their businesses made like $120, $200. And I walk in and we do the presentation. They're like, holy, like, this is insane. And I'm like, well, I kind of copied it, but whatever.
Our pastor always says, God gave you 2 eyes, so plagiarize. Right?
Yeah. There we go. Yeah. Best form of flattery.
Yeah.
So you're in college and you're entrepreneurship majors, is that
Yep.
right?
Yep. Entrepreneurial management.
So did you, as part of that coursework, did you have to come up with a business, or was that just
there were
sort of
certain
ideas?
classes that you would, but that's not really how
Vitafive was on the side. That was our side thing we were doing. And then and honestly, like, I could have done that for that venture class, but I wanted to almost prove that I can make money doing something else rather than my main project. It's funny, a lot of students actually, like Robbie, he once asked me, he's like, are you doing Vitafive because you actually care, or are you doing that because of this class? And I'm like, you can be the judge. And it's like 3 years later. I don't know, you can tell me what you think. But the funny thing about, to be completely candid with you guys, the major gave us so much freedom to do things on the side and not have to study for tests. And I loved that.
All right, note to self.
Right? So like, I'm sure TC was like, don't tell people that, because it's a good degree. It is a good degree. It's a good major. But man, we could talk to our professors and say, hey, we got to miss.
Well, I met a guy recently in Mexico through the Entrepreneurs Organization, and he said that most innovations come from laziness.
Mm-hmm.
Because people don't want to, they're looking for an easier way to,
That's
get
what we
something
do.
else done, right?
Okay,
Yeah.
well, on that note, we're going to take a break, and we'll be back after the break. This is
around.
the Next Level on 1190 AM. Hi, this is Bob Gibbons with Riata Commercial Realty. If your office lease is going to be expiring in the next year or two, the one thing I would tell you definitely do not want to do is exercise a renewal option. Now, that may sound a little nuts. When you negotiate for that renewal option, why wouldn't you actually want to use it? Well, the reason is because while you want to have one as a reservation for your space so the landlord can't lease the space out from under you, that option may not actually work the way you want it to now. It may have made sense 5 years ago, but it doesn't today. The only thing that changes when you exercise a renewal option are the expiration date and the rent. But you may want to do other things like have another option to renew, have an option to terminate or expand. You may want to be able to expand now, or have a new base year for your operating expenses. There's all kinds of things that need to be considered. So we recommend that you renegotiate, not renew. For more information, contact me, Bob Gibbons, at texastenantrep.com. That's texastenantrep.com. So welcome back to The Next Level, Conversations that Propel Business. We're here with Garrett and Nik. They're the founders of vitafive, and you can find them at vitafive.com.
You gonna spell it out?
No.
Okay.
I'm figuring that our listeners are a little smarter than that.
They better
It's
figure
spelled
it
out.
out. If they can't figure it out, they don't deserve it.
Yeah. I just like watching Bob.
It's not the
spell.
numeral 5, it's the word 5.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So back to TCU, you guys are come up. I mean, so you talked about the idea, really in it becoming a side hustle. So let's talk about where the idea came from. So, because that's kind of a weird jump off, like, hey, we're doing window cleaning to, hey, well, I'm going to get into gummy vitamins,
Yeah, it's funny. We went to Austin for for Greg Abbott's inaugural ball, and I was lucky enough to just sit down at a table at this, during the ball, and sat next to this woman, and she takes her vitamin pack out and has her name on it, and I'm like, I've never seen that before. Like, I've never seen a vitamin pack with someone's name. That's amazing. And she's like, yeah, it's my husband's. So I'm like, cool. Switch seats, and I was like, yeah, hey, husband. And I started asking him questions. The guy was probably in his mid-70s. So I was like, cool, maybe I could be like I could be his mentee, you know, like, or I could be like, he could be my mentor and I could maybe grow under him and run his business. And so I was really pumped about it. And I said, well, you know, do you sell brick and mortar? Do you sell online? He's like, pretty much all brick and mortar. And I was like, what's your price point? He's like, $120 a month. I'm like, whoa, that's really hefty. And he's like, yeah, well, we sell to like women in the woodlands, like in Houston. I'm like, oh, well, that makes sense. I mean, upper income demographic. But I said, well, what if you went mass market online, cheaper price point, and scaled it? And he just was like, nah, I like what I'm doing. I'm like, okay, cool. So, and I was 20 at the time, so I'm sure he was just like, this kid's just
Who's
like,
this kid?
he's got pipe dreams. Like,
Did you
doesn't
get
know what he's doing.
any sense of how big his operation was?
I think he was doing a couple million a year.
Okay.
So
decent
it's pretty
size.
good. Yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, they said that's what he told me anyway. And so,
Was it supplements or was it actually prescription pills? Or do you know?
they were supplements. He was
Okay.
very like, he was a doctor, but he was very like all natural. He's like, I don't think what his philosophy is, if you have the right diet, if you have the right supplementation, and you have the right, you know, sleep habits and stuff, you don't need to be taking prescriptions for a lot of instances. So very cool guy. Don't want to like discount him for what he's doing. He's great. But he pushed me to go home to Nik, and I was like, dude, we can pretty much do what he did, but with my improvements of like mass market, lower price, and scalability. And so we decided to do that. The funny thing is, I'll just end kind of with this, is we had to find differentiation. And one of our current investors, he was a mentor at the time, and he's like, what makes you different? And we looked online. There's so many companies doing the pill packs online that are personalized. And then I was talking to my mom one night, and she's like, well, you guys do gummies too. This is like in the beginning stages. We had 2 product lines, right? Pills and gummies. And I was like, yeah. And she's like, is anyone doing gummies? I'm like, I don't think so. And so I did a little bit more research and stuff. And I was like, no one is doing like a custom gummy vitamin pack. There's gummy bottles. There's these little like multi-packs, but no one's doing like custom to you.
Sure.
And so we're like, let's do it. That's our niche. And that's what we finalized before we launched the business.
And I don't mean to keep dragging you back because I love how it's flowing. It's a great story. But you're at Governor Abbott's inauguration ball. You meet a guy. You come back. And, like, you guys don't have any background in any of this, right? So, like, where did you start? I mean, like.
The good thing is we had worked on a couple projects before. And so, like, I had worked with another business partner before. And we just, like, our strengths were both in the same area.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, it was like, you know, finance operations. That's pretty much like what we both were kind of better at.
Right.
Garrett and I worked together before on a couple, you know, I guess you could call them ideas. And he's so good with like design front end, like together was just, you know, we always fed off each other and, you know, our values align, which is a huge thing too.
So you have this conversation. You come back and you talk Nik into doing this.
Yeah.
But like Steven says, where do you start with something like that? I mean, did you figure out
Hey, let's
how
go
you
out in
were
the
gonna,
garage and see if we can make some gummies, right?
Did you start building?
It was very similar to that, to be honest. Like, not even joking. I said, we can set up a website, and I'll take care of that. You can start looking at bag and box suppliers in China, because that was more of the back end stuff. And maybe I can do some designs and send it to the suppliers. And so we, like, literally in 6 weeks, we had a box, we had bags, and then we went to Costco and just bought like a couple $100 worth of gummy vitamins.
Oh wow!
And like this is
Yeah, because I was going to say, where did you source your
right?
vitamins?
Yeah,
Yeah.
from Costco,
of course.
in the
What was I
beginning,
thinking?
obviously. Duh, that's what you do, right?
Right.
Just
Love
buy
it.
everything from Costco. And so we did that, and then we were just pulling everything out of our butt. It was just like, yeah, we're a vitamin company. It's like, no, you got some bags from China and put Costco gummies in it. And the thing is, I think our ability to hustle and get it all done in that 6 week time frame is when I started talking to like mentors and like family and friends and stuff. And we went in this business competition and got like top 5 out of like 60 teams. And so they're like, whoa, like you guys are actually legit about this. And we were putting thousands of dollars into like everything, you know, because you got to buy a bunch of bags and a bunch of boxes and all that stuff. And we just had no fear of failure. We're just like, let's do it.
So where'd you raise the money to buy all that stuff?
That was all initially us. Like we put all of our money that we made from internships and savings and stuff like that into it.
All that money from the grocery delivery, you put that toward
Yeah, exactly.
All $150.
Yeah, all $150. And so we did that. And then I think our mentors and, you know, family and friends and stuff like that were business oriented were like, you guys have the work ethic and the hustle. You just need the right funding now. and maybe a little bit more organization, and you could maybe make a go of this. And so that's when 6 months later we raised our first round of like actual legit funding, and then 6 months later from that we launched the business completely.
Is that what got their attention, was the competition? I mean, they were like, I mean, because obviously they saw you hustling, so they knew who you guys were. They knew that you were all in. You're putting your own money into this. But was that the inflection point? They're like, oh, man, like maybe. I
don't even think so. I think it was, I went to a couple of them with a business plan. Like Nik, I mean, I did like a PowerPoint presentation, but Nik did most of the research and back end stuff on the plan. I think it was like 20 pages. We sat down and went through it all, and we're like, this is what we want to do. And we already have, and we showed them our prototype. We did all this stuff, and they're like, well, you put the back end work on it. Like, that's impressive. It's not just an idea. Because I came to my dad with 20 ideas before with no research, nothing.
Yeah.
You know, I want to put Wi-Fi in train stations because in subways you get bad cell reception. And he's like, have you looked at the market and if they have it yet and the logistics behind it? So I went to people. We went to them and was like, we want to put gummies in a vitamin in a pack.
Yeah.
We want to put it online and sell it to people. And they're like, if you work hard enough, you probably could figure that out. Yeah. So that's really what it came down to. I mean, it's very simple.
Who were your first investors? I mean, what kind of people?
Yeah, so half family and then half really actually outside investors. They weren't really family friends. I met one of them he was my boss, and then he sold his business off, and he was, he's kind of just now hanging out.
Yeah.
After the exit.
Good for him.
Right? Yeah. Oh, he killed it. And he said, whenever you have an idea, because I went to him probably 6 months before we even came up with the idea. So that was 2014. He came up with the idea, and I said, hey, I just want you as a mentor in my life. And he said, when you come up with a good idea, let me know, and I'll see if we can do something about it. And then when I came to him with this, he said, I think this is it. Let's do it. And he's just been supportive ever since. And then he kind of gave us the guidance to go reach out to a couple of family members. My grandpa, my dad are both entrepreneurs, so they were all for it. It's like having a doctor as a dad and saying, hey, I want to go to med school. It's
sure.
Like, yeah.
But did any of these investors give you more than money? I mean, were they
they
really business people that could really guide you in how to do
They've
all
only
this?
used the word mentor 15 times in this conversation.
Well, people can be mentors and not be worth much.
Yeah, no, true. Well, it's funny because all of them are in B2B, so not B2C.
Mm-hmm.
But there's the thing is all the nitty gritty stuff you got to learn on your own. Yeah. All the high level stuff, it doesn't really matter what kind of business you run. All businesses have a lot of the same principles. So we meet with them on higher level things, and then figure out all the little things on our own.
And how did the professors in your entrepreneurship program react to all this?
I think originally they were pretty shocked because they were like, I mean, I think everyone kind of comes up with ideas. So it was more the beginning phases. They were kind of like, okay, cool. We'll kind of help you out. We'll put you in connection with anyone that we know. But then it was really once we were launching and making it kind of a real thing. And then once we said, hey, we're doing this out of school, because there's not a whole lot of students there that, they have an idea and then they're able to do this out of school. And we were super fortunate. So, but yeah, I mean, they're super excited for it all. But I think that they always kind of say things. I don't know if we take it with a grain of salt or if they kind of say things like that. But, they're always kind of, hey, just be careful of this,
Mm-hmm.
Well, they seem to love you because they've got you on their
I know, right?
marketing materials now, videos, and
it all worked out.
All of a sudden, you're my favorite entrepreneurship.
Right, exactly.
These are our best C students.
Yeah,
exactly. Just kidding.
No, I think pretty close. Yeah, pretty close. It was nice. They honestly, at the beginning, I think, Brad and Sherry, they both saw something in us.
Yeah, exactly.
They didn't know if it actually would amount to anything, but they're like, you got the spark. I just don't know if it'll be lit or not. I don't know if it'll start a fire, but you got something there. And then once we raised money and we did a presentation to them about how much money we raised, and their jaws dropped, and we're like, we're going to launch this date next year, and they're like, oh, this isn't just an idea anymore. This could actually become something. And then I think the moments in life that excite me the most are when you can follow up with someone that was maybe in there, like there in the beginning,
mm-hmm.
and you go, yeah, like we just did our 6-figure month last month or whatever it may be, whatever the metric is.
Sure.
And they go, what?
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, isn't this crazy? I mean, we're making it. It's not just what it was 3 years ago kind of thing.
Well, and I want to continue with that before we go to the break real
Yeah.
quick, just out of curiosity. How many people from the entrepreneurship school at TCU do you know that are actually doing what you guys are doing right now?
Students.
Mm-hmm.
In our class?
Or that were students when you were there.
Students you were there.
That have actually started
in
a
our
company.
class or just in general?
Yeah.
In our class,
I don't know if there's any.
Yeah, we're the only ones.
I have a degree from North Texas in entrepreneurship, and there's a few of us. I mean, and I knew quite
like
a few of
3
them.
out of
A lot of them
200.
have done great. It's been a great
Right.
degree. They've had great careers,
yeah.
and they're running businesses,
Mm-hmm.
but very few actually started.
Yeah.
It's the interesting little antidote.
Yeah, no, that's cool. All right, we're going to take another break. We'll be right back on 1190.
Stick around.
Hi, my name is Fern, and I've been an empowered team member at Alkali for over 5 years. I first learned about Alkali through an online job board and was intrigued to learn that Alkali was a Dave Ramsey endorsed local provider. But what captivated me was Alkali's mission statement, which is closely aligned with my own beliefs. So what's kept me at Alkali for over 5 years? First, Alkali's 5 core values match my own. Second, I've been empowered to use my unique abilities to impact our community, our clients, and Alkali. If you'd like to learn more about becoming an empowered Alkali team member, visit our website, alkaliservices.com. That's ALKALI services.com.
Welcome back to The Next Level. We're here with our friends Nik and Garrett from vitafive, and that's vitafive.com with F-I-V-E, not the number 5, Stephen.
Thank you so much.
All right.
I really appreciate it.
You gave me such crap the last time. I thought I'd do it your way this time.
Thank you.
Okay, so we've been talking about how you guys get going and the kind of mentors you've had and that kind of thing, but what was the inflection point at which you stopped going to Costco to buy your gummies and you sourced it from some other source?
You want? I mean, you can go
Yeah.
for it. Yeah.
So, I mean, that was kind of whenever, after we raised the round of funding, what we left out a little earlier was whenever we started the business, we started it to do a competition kind of thing. I don't want to say we started it to do the competition, but when we started it, we wanted to get everything ready before the competition.
Right.
And so we kind of put things together more in like, half-done way.
Mm-hmm.
And we were like, hey, Costco gummies are good enough. These bags are good enough. Everything was good enough. And then after that, we really like stepped back and we're like, do we want to make this a real thing or do we just want to make this more like a on-the-side hustle project kind of thing? And that's whenever we decided, all right, let's go to investors. Let's launch this the right way. Let's get real suppliers. Let's get all that figured out. And then once we launch it, let's launch it with a good brand and then, go full force there.
So was the name vitafive from the beginning? Has that changed?
It was
A little.
It was vitafive. So it was VITIFIVE because that was the only domain we could get. Because we wanted vitafive.
That's the one for $12 on GoDaddy.
Yeah. And then vitafive was taken, and then it just opened up one day,
Yeah, random.
and we just swiped it up right away for the same price as
$10.
vitafive. And then we're like, okay, that's a sign.
That's
This
a
actually might be a
blessing right
thing.
there.
So if I go
man.
to vitafive right now, where's it going to take
Did
me?
Online poker.
Did we keep that?
We bought it on, I think, Squarespace, so it's probably going to send you to some.
All right, I'm going
Go buy
to
it,
test you while we're
Squarespace.
here.
Yeah.
But where do you go to source material? I mean, gummy vitamins.
Yeah, we look kind of all over. And actually, it was kind of interesting because whenever we first started, we were looking at a couple different suppliers. And thank God for Garrett with his attention to detail and everything. Because we were looking at this one supplier, and they were saying that they were from Miami, Florida. But come to find that they were from like Israel or something.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to source everything from the U.S., especially the manufacturing of it. Some vitamins like these source
Canada's
of
all right,
vitamin
too.
C. Yeah, exactly.
Hey?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Is that
And-
for safety reasons or?
Yeah,
just-
you've got all the FDA and kind of all the
Quality reasons,
regulations
yeah.
within.
Makes
No, don't get me
sense.
wrong. They're like when you're getting a vitamin C or the actual ingredient raw material, that typically will actually be sourced somewhere else. China or wherever they're typically sourcing it. But whenever it all comes in, it should all be manufactured within the U.S.
So just to answer your question on a more like, I guess, technical standpoint, 7 out of our 8 gummies are California, 1's in Canada.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Interesting.
we're hoping to add a couple more in the next probably 6 to 12 months. And a couple come from that Canadian company. And then a couple come from California too. So
So you have 8 different kinds of vitamins right now.
mhm.
And what did you start with? I guess 5.
we started with
Start with 8,
vitafive.
switched out.
Yeah, vitafive has actually nothing to do with like the amount of products we have.
Okay.
It's really we provide vitamins or supplements that help supplement the 5 food groups. So that was kind of how we came up with it.
Okay.
But we started out with I think 8, and then
Yep.
we
We
dropped.
had CoQ10 dropped one. I don't know.
Yeah,
one.
we dropped CoQ10 back in 2017, beginning of
Yep.
last year, and then added probiotic to.
Just it wasn't selling.
Yeah, it wasn't selling, and our supplier, because it wasn't selling on their end either, they were like, we're not gonna produce this anymore, and we're like, we're not selling much of it anyway. So let's see if there's another product we could look at adding. And probiotic has been like one of our best
yeah, it's a
sellers,
huge
which
hit.
so is a perfect switch. It's great.
So where do you see that going in the future in terms of, I mean, how do you decide when to add another vitamin?
So, I mean, you want to go into like kind of the quality check that we go through each
Yeah,
one?
we do quite a bit of quality. I mean, the first thing, whenever even coming up with a vitamin, is really going to be like the demand that people ask. So, we get nonstop for prenatal, B12, some type of energy, typically things that, because most of our customer base is women. And so the prenatal is huge. But then we've also got people that are like, hey, I want energy of some sort. And so give me a B12. So if we get enough demand from that, then we'll then kind of take to the next step and go, okay, who with our suppliers has a quality, B12, and then we'll kind of go in, check the FDA facility. I mean, most of our suppliers right now, we've already gone through and done the check, so it's not as much of a process. But we always make sure that we go out, visit the place, see kind of how the whole production is of it, make sure that they're actually producing it and they're not bringing it from Israel or some other place, and then just kind of, they do third-party tests, but then we get third-party tests as well. Make sure that everything is right in line, because I know there's a lot of like efficacy testing.
Sure.
That people go, well, this company says that they have this much. Well, we want to make sure for sure that this supplier is always going to have the amount that it has. So.
And the most important ingredient we look for is either pectin or starch rather than gelatin. So gelatin is, it's Jello, so it's gonna melt at a way lower temperature, and it's also gonna not digest as efficiently because it's animal based rather than plant based, or fruit based. So all of our products are either pectin or starch derived, which means you could take a pack out literally if you wanted to go, play tennis in 110 degree weather, you could put that sucker on the bench and come to it later, and it would be warm inside, but it wouldn't be melted. So a lot of our clients love putting it in the purse, and they might leave the purse in the car during the summer, and they just have to never worry about that stickiness, which is great. And the funny thing is we didn't even know that was a requirement for like logistically for us in the beginning.
Sure.
And then we found this supplier in California, and we started like doing testing with different suppliers. And I'm like, these ones melt, these ones don't. Why is that? And then we're like, oh, okay, we need to make sure this is a standard for every supplement we bring on.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And I noticed you also have on your website, gluten-free, vegan, all these other things. I never thought to even ask those questions when it comes to my supplements.
Yeah.
So is that a big thing?
Yeah,
or
it depends I think it depends on the lifestyle of the individual. So like we do have some people that are, vegan. And so 5 out of the 8 of our vitamins are vegan and, gluten-free. It just kind of depends on the lifestyle that people have. It's more of a perk, right? So our whole thing is, the convenience of being able to take your vitamins whenever, wherever. But I think that
So it's not just a marketing thing where somebody says, hey, it's gluten-free, but it's always been gluten-free.
Well,
right.
But if it's important to you, right? I mean, then.
Oh, yeah, I know. But I mean, some people are doing it for marketing only, not because.
Right.
It's
Right.
cool because I think the way we look at it is like we might as well open up the market as much as possible. And so like our products are kosher too.
Oh.
And so we had a lady today reach out and she was like, I saw that they were kosher. And I'm like, you're a first, but there we go. Like
And halal too.
Yeah,
That's
and
right.
halal. So it's like we'll get a customer just from that perk. So it's nice to have as many. Like one of the things I wish we had was we do have like some genetic like GMOs in our like cornstarch, just because most corn on the market is genetically modified. So one of the things we can advertise is that like it's non-GMO. But a lot of people, I think, knowing that it's in the corn rather than knowing like it's in the actual like supplement or the actual pectin or whatever it may be, I think people don't worry as much. But you can't hit every mark, but you can as you go on. So as we go on, hopefully we can develop better and better products as time goes on.
And it's all about disclosure. So
Yeah.
people can choose what they want. And the cool thing is you got the ability to personalize the packs. So
Exactly.
they don't want gluten-free. If they want gluten-free, they can get gluten-free.
And we sort of dove into that. So you have real business. You got, this is how you get the products you guys launch. I mean, what is that? What is your go-to-market strategy? You've already mentioned that your, typical client is a female. Did that evolve? I mean, who do you guys serve? What is that experience for people that haven't done the pre-work that we've done? Someone just
It was insane because I actually talked to a guy yesterday that I met him at church, and he wanted to talk about Facebook marketing because that's where we do all of our business is Facebook and Instagram marketing. And so, which is a beast. And if you can harness it, you can use it to a crazy level. You can really scale your business. And that's kind of what's given us that growth. But to figure it out is very hard. And it took us a lot of money, and it took us a lot of time and a lot of testing to figure out what sales funnel works, what targeting works, what creative works, all that kind of stuff. And so our go-to-market strategy in the beginning, we had like 7 or 8 different ways. And and this is where our mentors come in. Our mentor was like, just because something doesn't work initially doesn't mean it doesn't work. Like, you need to just keep trying. And he said, my guess is Facebook and Instagram marketing is probably going to be your best bet and the best way to scale your business. And so we just kept working. And then one day, it was in Q3. So we launched in like kind of Q2-ish of 2016. And then right around end of Q3, we got our first Facebook sale. And like, I flipped out. I could not believe it. I was like, that came from Facebook? I was like, no way. I never thought this would happen, because I hated Facebook in the beginning, because I'm like, we're spending all this money and they're taking all our money and we're not getting any sales.
Right.
And I don't think any dollar is wasted if you learn from it. So when people is like, yo, you don't want to waste money on Facebook. It's
an investment.
Like, yeah, no, you're trying to figure it out. So anyway, to answer your question, go to market right now is Facebook, Instagram marketing. We're hoping actually to do some like podcasts, advertising, things of that nature in the future.
Well, we have a podcast you can sponsor.
Yeah, right. So there's this one right here. But the cool thing about, I think, and you guys know this with running any business, it's just what's working. Let's scale that, but let's leave a little bit of cushion and work on stuff that might work in the future. So have 5-10% of your budget to maybe test out new ways of marketing and things of that nature. But Facebook and Instagram's been amazing, and it's so cool because it's 24/7. So
what's resonating? I mean, why do people buy? Who buys it? I mean, you mentioned female, but why? Why the female?
Yeah. So I think first of all, you were talking in the beginning about your wife, and she takes all different types of vitamins, all that stuff. And then you talk to a guy, and he's like, I've never taken vitamins before. It's kind of, I think it's almost like, I think women are more, they're more focused on that. They think it's more important.
Yeah.
Which, it
they
is.
live longer.
Yeah, right. Women are a little
I'm
smart.
in insurance.
Women are usually smarter than men when it comes to making logical decisions. And so I think that our customer base is that because women see the value in it. I think a lot of men just don't see that there. We do have, 10 to 15% of our customers are men. So we got something there,
Only
right?
10 to 15.
Yeah.
And there are guys like me whose wives put it in front of them and say, take this.
Take this, don't argue, don't ask questions.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Men need to step it up, but we'll have to do that after the break. We'll be back in a few minutes on 1190 AM.
Stick around.
Hi, my name is Javier Villalobos, president and founder of Sports Marketing Monterrey, and I'm in the business of bringing passion and joy to fans, and I believe that Bob and Steve can use some of that.
Welcome back. We're with Nik and Garrett of Vitafive, vitafive.com.
Okay, so one of the things I want to go back to is when we were talking about getting started early. What was one of the biggest personal sacrifices you guys had to make to make this thing run?
I think a lot of it was, first it was pride in money. So even though we did get funding, the first thing that we did was we looked at it as, this isn't our money. This is investors' money. We've got to find a way of making a return on it. And so luckily we were in school at first, so we didn't have to take much of a salary, if at all. And then after school, that's when it kind of got hard. And so Garrett and myself, and I mean, Garrett cut his salary so many times. And I was
lucky. I had, big family, graduation gifts and stuff. Just took all that money and put it towards rent.
But I mean, it was so, I just remember it was, a little bit over a year ago now, and we were making $1,000 a month. Rent, for cheap, you're living with 3 guys in a 2-bedroom place. It's $500 a month.
You're not roommates too, are you?
We are not now.
No.
Okay.
But, just kind of the cost structure, it was, $500 something for rent plus all your electricity, all that stuff. After everything, we were left with like $3 for food every day.
And what'd you eat? This is funny to me, being that you're a vitamin company.
Yeah, so for me every day, I would eat tortillas and meat. There was no cheese, there was no guacamole, there was no sour cream, there was none of that stuff. And so there was one day, actually, I went home and told my parents, I'm like, there will be a day where I'll get guacamole on my podcast. But
Right.
and sure enough, they were like, "Oh, here's $5."
So no lunch invitations from Nick.
Well,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I love that story though, because I mean we see this a lot in our business. People get funding and they're we're grown up now, and so we need to do X, Y, and Z. And one of those things we see people do a lot of times is give themselves a nice heavy duty salary, and I'm the CEO.
They act like they deserve it.
Yeah.
For no reason. It's like you're not making money. You don't deserve it unless you're actually profiting. And the cool thing is there's upside to it, right? So I'll be really honest with you guys. On my tax return, like my income for 2016 was that the first year? Yeah, was $7,000.
Oh,
I took $7,000 in the whole year.
How do you like
2016.
me now, Brock?
Yeah. Yeah. And so that was 2016. 2017 it quadrupled, and this year we'll triple.
Hopefully they'll do that same.
So it's like our salary, we're getting like over 100% bonuses every year.
Wow.
But the thing is, you got to make those initial sacrifices.
You do.
My buddy's signing bonus in 2016 was more than my actual income in 2016. So
but he got it before he earned it. You're only getting it after you earn it.
yeah,
That's
so,
a whole different thing.
And I think the cool thing is, like, for us, we were like, I think a lot of guys do these startups and they just think it's romantic and they don't care if it lasts or not. I'm like, I want this business to sustain itself.
Yeah.
And so that's why when we weren't making any money, and the way we pay ourselves now is based on growth. So we have a little equation of like X amount of members plus this little base, and that's how much we get paid on a monthly basis.
Well, I feel like a lot of people also just can't do it. That's the other thing. I think a lot of people get stuck. And so my wife and I, we're big Dave Ramsey fans. He's the financial guru, live on less than you make, get out of debt. And us following his ministry, like early on, was a game changer in our business. Not because eventually later on we became endorsed insurance providers for him, but because we really, really believed it and we lived it. It allowed us to invest in people and things that we never would have been able to do if we were strapped with a bunch of overhead. And I think a lot of people they don't even know how to get to it.
No, you're right.
I want to ask something a little more technical. How do you guys manage the business from the standpoint of, I mean, like I hear people talk about Shopify whenever they are selling a product. But so, I mean, do you guys use that or something like that? And what does that do for you exactly? And how do you handle shipping? Just sort of some of the nuts and bolts.
I'll go into the website side of things, and I'll let Nick go into the back end operational side of things, softwares we use for that. So if on one of the forums, I know Nick answered, like, if there was one thing you could do differently in the beginning, what would you do? And I think he said Shopify. We did a custom build on our website, and it took us probably almost a year to get that sales funnel down to a T. The thing is, Shopify sets up honestly, a lot of the different Marketo, all the different e-commerce platforms, they set up these data-driven sales funnels that are already built to help you optimize and scale. And so we were like, we had to do it from scratch. We had to figure it out. And so we started looking at other businesses and copying their sales funnels, but that cost 10 times more, probably even more than that, than what Shopify would cost. So we're actually in the middle of we have like a secret vitafive site right now that's actually on Shopify. It's a subdomain, and that's where we're trying to send test traffic to see if we can get some sales on that and get our cost per acquisition at the same price as our current custom build. Because our custom build, you want to do a project, it's going to cost you $4,000 to do a project on Shopify. It's literally a plugin that you integrate through an API. And I'm like,
so did you not know about Shopify at the time? And why'd you build your own?
We worked with this one company, and they told us that we needed a custom build.
Because it was going to make them more money.
20 years, you're 20 years old and you just take, You're 20 years old and you just take, thanks for that, totally muted myself. You just 20 years old, you just take people's word for it. And I think that's another lesson to learn in business. You can't always take people's word for it. You got to look at data, and you got to look at past performance in other people's companies, and you got to look at referrals. I mean, there's so many things you got to learn that they don't teach you in school, and you got to learn just from, I always say we have a bunch of, under my shirt, I got a bunch of battle wounds and battle scars from business. And that's really how you learn, is you got to get.
You learn the most.
I feel what about on the back end of shipping?
Yeah, all that, I mean, for us, one of the things that he was saying, kind of like with Shopify, I think the thing that we found is finding as many tools and softwares that you can that'll minimize the amount of time that you have to spend on stuff. So we use stuff like ShipStation, and there's just, there's multiple different tools out there that you can use. So we'll do anything and everything we can to find a tool that'll end up saving us just a bit more time.
Lean and mean.
Exactly.
I love that. So obviously a lot of success and momentum that you guys are building and plowing back into it to make it bigger and better. What would you say, just with all this going on, what's been the biggest high for y'all, like over the last year?
I think it's weird. It's not one thing. It's, I think, 1,000 things added together. So I'll get like emotional sometimes just by myself at my apartment. Like I'll go home and I'll just, bring up maybe the business and look at our like metrics.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, I cannot believe we're actually in this space. Like if I were to tell myself 2 years ago, this is where you'd be, you'd be running like a multi-million-dollar business with like employees and stuff like that. Like that was a goal for me when I was like in my 30s kind of thing.
Right.
And I'm doing this right out of school. And so I'll shoot Nik a text and I'm like, love you, dude. This is awesome. You just get so pumped about knowing where you came from and where you are now.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes 1,000 steps. And so sometimes it just hits you. And I don't think it was just one certain thing. I think it was after looking over the last 4 months, we've done this much. And it's like, whoa, didn't expect that. So I think a lot of people think it's
the impact you're having that really is the high.
Yeah, I don't think there was one certain moment that made me go, crazy about what we're doing.
How do you keep your head level then through that? I mean, when you have a quick like that. Ours was not like that. I mean, we had flows like that,
Mm-hmm.
and then we'd hit a ceiling, and oh my gosh, and then
I think we have the same thing though. Like our ads took a hit last week, for instance. Like we were killing it in January and February, and then March came along and they kind of slowed down. We're like, what's going on? You start freaking out,
Mm-hmm.
and then you just really have to calm down. Like I will literally. I'll actually start sweeping the floors in the warehouse and not do actual real work and put my headphones in and listen to music and sweep floors for 30 minutes just to calm myself down and not worry about all the technical sides of the business. So I know that sounds really weird, but that just sometimes gets my
I think whenever the emotions are so high, because like we know, like especially with the past couple of weeks or just randomly through the business, that's one thing that we've really gotten a lot better with. Because at the very beginning, it's like, we would be so pumped when we got our bags in, and then we would be on an ultimate low. Yeah, so like we'd be, and kind of like we were telling a little bit on the break earlier, we used to be at like, 100% happiness or like 10%. Like it was like, a little over a year ago, we were on an all-time low, but then a month later we were on an all-time high, and it was horrible. So that's where we kind of came up with this like 60 to 90% rule of happiness of like you're always in this happiness phase, but you never get too excited. Because when you get too emotional, whether it's happy or sad or angry or anything like that, you just start making irrational decisions. And that's what's great is, cleaning the floors or doing anything like that. It allows us to like just kind of get back in our space. Like for me, I like just going for a walk. But
I'll make an analogy, which maybe you guys can tell me if I'm right or not, because you're actually married. But I feel like a business cycle is almost the same as marriage, where like that first date, like you just get excited about anything, you hold her hand and you're going nuts. You get bags in, you're going nuts. And then 3 years later, you're running this business that has so many moving parts. You have a family, you have kids, you have a mortgage, you have all this stuff. And you might lose the romance of the beginning stages, but your love and dedication for that marriage is so much stronger than that first date where you didn't even know the girl. So when we were first starting the business, it's like, we'd get excited about bags, but now I have so many moving parts. I am like in love with this business and invested, rather than it's just a fun idea and I'm romanticizing about it.
So where do you see the risks in your business?
I think ad inventory on Facebook and algorithm changes and things like that. You always got to bounce back and figure out what's going on. If they change anything, it could totally change up your marketing and how much it's going to cost to acquire customers. So that's a huge risk. Relationship with suppliers.
Yep. I think if you're trying to get it to the point of like competition coming in, we're not too worried about that. And it's more of the way of like, the way that we treat our customers and the way that we do all that. If that's kind of what other people are worried about, is the risk of competition coming in, because there will be at some point competition that comes in. If we do well enough, then competition should come in. But I think that the way that we deal with our supplier or deal with our customers and kind of the whole process, we really try to make it like all about the convenience of the product and everything rather than some of the other stuff. But yeah, I think bigger issues are the suppliers as well as the ad inventory and advertising. So
less than a minute, real quick, your favorite thing about being partners with Garrett and Garrett, Nik.
There you go.
Yeah, my favorite is that the most important to me is that we've got the same values. You know, Christianity comes first, the greater good for the longer term, and you know, we're best friends. So
I'm way more emotional than Nik, and so he keeps me like level-headed. Like if I get, I don't know how I do it without him there, because I've gotten so down, especially in the beginning stages, and I'd start, you know, yelling, cursing, like going crazy, just stressed, and he'd say, man, like we're gonna figure it out. And if I didn't have that voice there, I wouldn't have gotten through it. So
Awesome.
Well, guys, thanks for being our guest today.
Thank
We've
you.
really enjoyed
No,
it.
thank you.
Please, our listeners, go to vitafive.com, and to learn more about the show, go to nextlevelshow.com.
Help spread the word. You guys know someone who probably could benefit from listening to this. Or
See ya.
Vitafive. Have a good one.
thanks.